Let's quickly talk about this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. Okay, and this is actually a deep immersion into a success story when it comes to podcasting and what you can learn from Theo Vaughn as well. Let me first talk about Theo Vaughn, the host. What I love about Theo Vaughn is that he has an electric personality. He's multi-talented. He's very energetic, and most importantly, he knows actually for like at the beginning of every podcast, he has he can articulate the right angle where he wants to lead the conversation to, and I love that. And I've seen this in multiple podcasts from Theo Vaughn. But let's quickly talk about Theo himself. So Theo Vaughn actually grew up actually in southern Louisiana. Okay, and so this is kind of cool. And he grew up there, and this is where he had all his formative years. And what I love about his upbringing is that he literally talks about his upbringing through his podcast, through his interviews, in conversation with the host. Okay, and so what I love about Theo Von also is that he also has a comedy specials on Netflix. Okay, so it's not just about having a podcast host, but he's also a comedian, a very successful comedian, by the way. Okay, and so he tours all the time. He makes money touring all the time. As a matter of fact, you can actually there is a tour called The Return of the Rat that has been very successful. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that Theo Von is a very busy host. He's a very busy man. Okay, but a hardworking man too. Okay, and so he actually right now he lives in Nashville and LA. Okay, but basically he actually grew up in Louisiana. One thing I want to say about Theo Von is that Theo Von is involved in a lot of things. What I've seen in the last few years is that Theo has tried to build a media empire. He has tried to be to do something similar to the Joe Rogan Experience, or something similar to the Tucker Carlson show. Okay, so in other words, he's trying to really create an empire around his personality, kind of similar to the Mel Robbins show also, or even Crime Junkie. So this is very good, very fantastic, and Theo has been very good at doing so. So now that you know a little bit about Theo Von, let's talk about the show. The show is called the Past Weekend with Theo Von. Okay, very straightforward, and where he interviews a large variety of guests, a large variety of characters. Okay, so when you think about Theo Von's the Past Weekend, you don't have a specific, a defined niche. No, there is no niche. There's no niche. What happens this past weekend, and sometimes what happened on other days, that's what Theo Von talks about. So he can talk about everything. He can talk about business. He can talk about spirituality. He can talk about politics. He can talk about the economy. He can talk about tech. He can talk about anything. Okay. So, but the reason why people love Theo Von is not just his choice of topics. It's more how he goes about discussing those topics. That's really where Theo Von shows his talent, his ability to talk about issues that are seemingly not connected, but talk about them in a very structured way. Okay. And one thing I want to say also is that the show itself actually drops weekly. So if you go on YouTube, or you go on Apple Podcast, or you go on Spotify, the this show this past weekend drops every week, and sometimes it's a really in terms of timing, it has to depend on where you were at, because you can listen to the show no matter where you were at. You can listen to it in Europe, you can listen to it in Asia, you can listen to it in Africa, you can listen to it in the States. I mean, although Theo Von is the base in the States, and what he talks about mostly will interest an American audience. Sometimes he covers topics that could be of interest to a global audience too. So that's kind of cool. So the show itself actually is been run from Nashville and LA. He has teams in those two cities, and of course, you can't reach that level if you're doing things by yourself. I mean, basically, so Theo Von has a team. So the team that takes care of everything from SEO to to listener engagement. Okay, to also merch and everything else. So that's something to really think about. But long story short, this is a well-oiled machine, business machine. So why do people love the show? Why do people love this past weekend with Theo Vaughn? Let's talk about that. Well, one thing for sure, Theo has found a niche with no niche. In other words, you might be thinking that there is no niche, but if you think about it, this past weekend, whatever happened, that's a niche right there. Now, the niche is not associated with let's say an economic sector. It's not associated with a certain demographics. No, it's just a general niche. Okay, so whatever happens last weekend that could be of interest to his audience, Theo will talk about it. That's a fantastic niche though, because if you think about it, having no niche, having a niche with no niche, that's really cool because it gives you flexibility. It gives you the ability to adapt to whatever actually is in the news, whatever is creating buzz right now. Okay, Theo always asks himself, at least his staff asks themselves, okay, what is it that Theo is most enthusiastic about? Okay, what can he talk about like a very naturally? Okay, that's an important element. And also, this the reason why people love the show also has to do with the name. Think about it. This is a very catchy name. Think about that. This past weekend with Theo Vaughn. This not this weekend. No, this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. Very short, very straightforward. Okay, and that's what you want to have. If you have a podcast, you want your podcast name to be easy to remember, to be easy to pronounce. Obviously, Theo speaks to a certain demographics, so a certain audience. So his audience is mostly based in the U.S. But hey, listen, like I said, there are times when he talks about topics that could be of interest to a global audience. Okay, of course, if he talks about politics, maybe like an international audience wouldn't be interested. But when he talks about tech, for instance, or when he talks about business, for instance, if the company is prominent enough, is globally known, his audience will be interested in that as well. And I love the cover, the art cover that Theo Von has. So if you look at this past weekend with Theo Von, he's always creative. His team is always creative at making sure that they're bringing the right the right topography, okay, the right artwork, the right logo, the right thumbnails, or what have you. That's kind of cool. And also the music track that Theo Von actually uses is really compelling too. You will love it. I mean, in terms of genre, mood, and length, simplicity, okay, especially depending on the specific topic that Theo Von wants to cover that specific week. Another reason why people love Theo Von is that the podcast is really accessible. So this past weekend with Theo Von is accessible. Whether you want to really listen to it on YouTube, you want to go on Apple Podcasts, or you want to go on Spotify, among others. Okay, I mean some podcasts, some prominent podcasts like to really guard the podcast behind a paywall. Theo Von is not doing that. Okay, for Theo Von, the most important thing is accessibility, having the ability to have folks listen to his show. Okay, and if you look at Theo Von himself, here is a very straightforward man, very simple, very humble man that is really approachable too. So that's really good, and that really transpires in how he runs his show. Okay, and one thing people love about the show also is that you always have podcast descriptions. Pretty straightforward podcast descriptions. That's the thing. If you don't have a niche, you have to be descriptive in your podcast to let people know what to expect if they really dial in, if they really tune in. Okay, so podcast descriptions of this past weekend with Theo Von are pretty short and concise. They are really explanatory. They clearly describe the topic. Okay, they actually introduce the host. They describe the value of the show also, so that the public is always asking for more and more and more. Okay, and so of course Theo Von is on YouTube. So on YouTube you don't have to pay for stuff. I mean, on other platforms, on other directories, you might have to pay for stuff, but on YouTube, as long as you're comfortable listening to a podcast with ads, you are good to go. And also, Theo Von uses the cross promotion strategy to make sure that his show this past weekend with Theo Von is accessible on multiple platforms, including the ones that you know, but also the ones that you may not have heard about. So that's really fantastic. And the last thing that people love about Theo Von is that, the last thing, one of the last things that people love is that Theo Von is a hard worker. He's one of the most the best hard workers that I've seen in the last few years in the podcasting world, and he's very consistent. Every week, without missing, his team is dropping a new episode. Fantastic. Now, how does Theo monetize things? Let's talk about that. What are the avenues for revenue here? First of all, this past weekend with Theo Von makes money through sponsors, okay? And I'm going to go through some of the sponsors because they're pretty interesting how they were chosen. How different they are. This tells you about a very diversified business model, because some podcasts like to really do business with only a certain category of businesses. But Theo Von has he has cast a really vast network. Okay, so let's go through the sponsors here. Here are the sponsors that are paying Theo Von every single time he has a show. That's what a sponsorship deal. The sponsorship deal means. You are on payroll, so you're getting a paycheck from those companies, and you get a paycheck to advertise their business for them. So first, you have BetterHelp. So BetterHelp has a relationship with Theo Von, the podcast. So BetterHelp is actually a mental health platform that provides direct online counseling and therapy services via web or phone text communication. And BetterHelp has been around since 2013. Okay, so that's really important. So basically, Theo Von has a long-standing relationship with this sponsor. Another sponsor that you might have heard if you listen to a Theo Von's shows all the time is actually Blue Chew. Blue Chew. So this is pretty interesting. I love the name. This is a pretty known. Pretty known. It's a pretty good good product. Why? Blue Chew is all about having better sex. So you chew something in blue. So Blue Chew actually has chewable tablets for better sex, and those are delivered to you. So think about Blue Chew as a telemedicine service, offering all kinds of sex pills, if you will, for patients. And here is the 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 simple fact that Blue Chew has a sponsorship deal with Theo Von tells you a lot about how much revenue this business is generating, because they wouldn't be able to really strike such a deal with Theo Von if they were not making money, because Theo Von is not your average podcaster. Here is a top podcasting host, and so Blue Chew must be doing pretty well. Okay. And also you have DoorDash. Everybody knows DoorDash. So Theo Von has a long-standing sponsorship agreement with DoorDash, and basically he's getting paid also through that partnership. Fantastic. Another partnership that Theo Von has through his podcast is with a company called Modify. And so Modify actually is an excellent company to work with when you need a website. Okay, when you need a website, and the cool thing about this company here is that they're very adaptable. They're very nimble, if you will. So no matter the complexity of your website, you can work with Modify, not a problem. Okay, and you can use all their digital platforms to actually go to the next level for your website. So this is a company that has, again, a relationship with Theo Von. You also have a company called Morgan and Morgan. This is actually a law firm. Okay, the law firm. So you can see that, as I was telling you, Theo Von is not just having a sponsor in a specific industry. Okay, you go from medicine all the way to transportation, to delivery, to website design, and now you have a law firm. That tells you about the solidity of Theo Von's business model, the ability to actually diversify your relationships. Okay, so Morgan and Morgan is a personal injury law firm that handles cases such as car accidents, medical malpractice, and workers' compensation. So they have offices in Denver, Colorado, and throughout Florida. So that's really so this company has had a long-standing relationship with Theo Vaughn. You also have a Picks. Prize Picks is a company that actually is into. I mean, they do sport betting. Okay, and they've done so for the last few years. So Side Prize LLC, also known as Performance Predictions LLC, is an American daily fantasy sports operator doing business as Prize Picks, and the company is known for offering DFS contests such as Pick'em styled games for its users. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So Theo Vaughn has had a long-standing relationship with this company for the last few years. So that's really fantastic. Another way that Theo Vaughn makes money through his podcast is actually through affiliate commissions. That's really fantastic. All the companies that I just gave you a little earlier, BetterHelp, Blue Chew, DoorDash, Modify, Morgan and Morgan, Prospects. Anytime a new customer signs up through a Theo Vaughn's link or using a Theo Vaughn's coupon or discount rate, Theo Vaughn is getting a cut. Okay, it's getting a cut. I mean, for instance, if you think about if you sign up with DoorDash, basically you just have to use Theo Vaughn's like let's say a rebate code, whatever. Okay, and so it's a Theo 24, and you're getting up to 50% off a $10 value when you spend $12 or more after you sign up. This is just one example, okay? But the cool thing is that Theo Vaughn is monetizing. He's constantly monetizing. I love that a lot. Okay, so that's affiliate marketing. Theo Vaughn is also making money through merch. So this is really fantastic. He's monetizing his celebrity by actually selling merch also. And you know what? Fans love it. Fans love the quality of he. You can see on the screen here. Here is an example of the T-shirts that Theo Vaughn is selling. Okay, the Return of the Right. This is actually the comedy series that's constantly that's currently being run on Netflix. So Gang Return of the Rat, fantastic piece by the way, and also Theo Vaughn makes money also through tours. Okay, you can see on the screen here his tour dates. Okay, tour dates in Michigan, in Ohio, in Ontario, for instance. So he's not just in the states. He goes to Canada too. Okay, so that's kind of cool. I mean, this tells you a lot about the global. I mean, the international interest that Theo Vaughn has been able to generate through his podcast. So this is really fantastic. This tells you that you have the possibility to also scale your business, your podcast business, if you do things properly. In conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. I spoke about Theo Vaughn himself, the show, why people love the show, how Theo monetizes things, and finally the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.